today and thought about tonight, I became very nervous. I have one more reason to be, I think, after hearing all this. But I'm actually having some fun. And I don't want to take too much of the time that we have left this evening, but I have to remember what my mama used to always say: people don't have to be nice to you. And she was right. People don't have to be nice to us, do it? It was her way of saying, never take for granted or presume on the kindness of other people. For kindness is not an entitlement. And it is a way in which we begin to show our relationships with each other and ultimately with God. I have a lot of things I need to thank people for. And all of that time to do that would probably take us into the next day. But there are some things that I've written out that I would like to share with you. And because of the brightness of the lights and the glare from all of this technology, I'm having some difficulty seeing. So I thought I would ask John Michael if he would read some of my thoughts of gratitude. I've heard he's been a pretty good talker.
Charles asked me to read a few of his words here. So he says, I have so many people to thank. I've been very lucky to have countless people like you help me and love me. Thank you to my family, to my big sister Veronica, and her husband Tom, who have both passed away, and to Jerry, who's here tonight, and his wife Pat, who we lost last year, and to baby sister Alice and her husband Bob, who, as Charles says, thank goodness they haven't passed away. You all have been a rock to me, a constant support in an ever-changing world. To all my friends, you know who you are, because you've helped me to not take myself too seriously, thank you. And a word of thanks to Rachel Hester, our excellent executive director, and all of the staff, volunteers, and guests at Room in the Inn. Thank you for helping me find meaning in a troubled world. And I want to say a special note of thanks to Bishop Mark Spaulding for two reasons. First, for his support of Father Ryan. Bishop Spaulding is the next in a long line of forward thinkers that fervently support Catholic education. He understands that the main purpose of Catholic schools, like Father Ryan, is not academic excellence, athletic superiority, or artistic brilliance, although we strive for each of these. Father Ryan, first and foremost, is a place where we, students, faculty, staff, and supporters meet God through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. The second reason, Bishop, is your support of Room in the Inn. Since you came to Nashville, you have championed Room in the Inn. I want to thank you for all your encouragement and assistance. Finally, I want to thank Father Ryan. I owe Father Ryan so much. I owe the teachers and staff, past and present. I owe the students who I went to school with, students who have helped Room in the Inn through the years, and students who will volunteer in the future. Importantly, there is a direct line from the impact of the Sugar Shack that it had on me as a student at Father Ryan to the impact that Room in the Inn has on current Father Ryan students. And that makes me very happy. The spirit of service and faith is ever present at Father Ryan. It shaped us all and provided us an example of how to love God's children, all of God's children. I received much more from Father Ryan than just an education. So did we all. Not only do I owe, but I believe all of us owe Father Ryan with interest. Charles Strobel. Jim?
Those are beautiful words, and before Father Strobel is going to say a little prayer for us at the close, I want to tell just a quick story. We've become kind of accustomed in the last decade or so of expressing gratitude to our gala honorees through something meaningful. And Charles and I are both baseball fanatics, and he may be more fanatical than I am, I have to say. But about 6 months ago, we were sitting at Christ the King, and I was telling him that I had seen a perfect game. And he said, "Oh, you've seen a perfect game?" I said, "Yeah." And Frederick Strobel said, "Frederick, you ever see a perfect game?" "No." Because I've seen one. I said, "Oh, really? Charlie, tell me about your game." He goes, "It was at Yankee Stadium." I said, "What?" It's at Yankee Stadium. He goes, "Well, tell me about yours." I was like, "Mine was just lucky. I just happened to be there." I go, "Well, tell me about yours." Charles goes, "Well, I was in the dugout." And I said, "You were in the dugout at Yankee Stadium?" Now my whole story is blown about seeing this perfect game. I just was in the stands, lucky on one day, a summer day. But I was going to try to keep pace anyway because I'm competitive, and I think we both are. So I started telling him about the game. It was 90 minutes. And then he said, "Yeah, when I was there, it was Yogi Berra Day." I said, "You were at Yankee Stadium on Yogi Berra Day in the dugout?" He said, "Yeah, because it's the first time Yogi been back in decades." I'm starting to think that maybe I should just be quiet, but I carry on. And I said, "Well, I was there with Chuck Merriweather, and I got to go down to the umpires dressing room afterwards, and it was so incredible, and I got to meet Mark Burrell." And Charlie goes, "Yeah, I said, "Well, were you still in the dugout when the game, who threw the game?" He said, "David Cohn." I said, "Oh." And I said, "Were you in the dugout during the game?" He goes, "No, I was in Mr. Steinbrenner's box." I said, "You were in, at this point I relented. I just said, "Okay, your story is better than mine." He said, "Great." But what do you get someone who wants for nothing? Because he gives it all away. How do you try to express gratitude for a life of total sacrifice? That's the challenge for us at Father Ryan when we honor people, and when you honor people like Charlie Strobel. So what we've done is, our friends at Fanatics, we've got a signed baseball from the battery of that perfect game that you went to. David Cohn and Joe Girardi, and it's dated for that date. So this is for you, Charlie. Thank you for everything.
That's something Boots Donnelly doesn't have. This has been a wonderful night, and since you told the story, Jim, in fact, have we really given Jim a great send-off for his new position at the end of June? In order to close and get us ready to go home and say our prayers and get ready for bed, I have a story I'd like to share with you. It's one of my favorite stories. It's a story of two priests and the struggles they have to live their faith. And the first priest is young, and the second one is old. And the young priest says to the older priest, "Father, I have trouble with the devil." And the older priest says, "Oh, my son, don't worry about that. That will pass." The younger priest says, "It will pass. I cannot believe you're saying that. He tortures me and tempts me all the time. How do I deal with it? And do you wrestle with the devil?" And the older priest says, "No, I've come to understand his wily, cunning ways, and he knows how much I'll put up with. So we kind of coexist." And so the young priest can't believe it, and he says, I cannot believe that you don't have any struggles and you don't wrestle. And the old priest says, yes, I do wrestle. He says, you do? Who do you wrestle with? And the old priest says, I wrestle with God. And the young priest says, and you hope to win? And the old priest says, I hope to lose. Folks, I'm an old priest now, collar or not, and I hope to lose. And I wish that for all of you, that you hope to lose in the way that St. Augustine speaks about our hearts being restless until they rest in God. And so, as we begin to close this evening, if you'll allow me to say a couple of night prayers that I have a habit of saying as a way of expressing my losing in the life of God. If you will, bow your heads, please. Oh God, you know me and you probe me. You know when I sit and when I stand. You understand everything that I go through. With all my ways, you are familiar. Before a word is ever on my lips, O Lord, you know the whole of it. So where can I go from your presence? And from your spirit, where can I flee? If I go to the highest heavens, you're there. And if I sink down into the netherworld, you're also there. For you have knitted me in my inmost being, and formed me in my mother's womb. And so, O God, we praise you, we bless you, and only in God is our soul at rest. For from God comes our hope. God only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be afraid. Only a breath are mortal men, an illusion are men of rank. In a balance they prove altogether lighter than a breath. So only in God be at rest my soul, for from God comes my hope. God only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be disturbed. Go in peace. Amen.